Hi, this is Sarit Switzer, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast, a podcast devoted to the teachings of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi as recorded in his most famous work, the Tanya. My hope for this show is to make these teachings accessible and relatable to the average person, regardless of prior Jewish education or affiliation. The episodes follow the prescribed daily study portions and are meant to serve as practical lessons in how to live your life as your true self and develop an authentic and powerful relationship with your Creator. I have personally experienced the effects the study of this work has had on me, and I'm excited to share what I can of this knowledge with you. So please join me on this journey of learning, self-growth, and connection with your source. Hi, and welcome to the It Is Taught podcast. This is episode 160 for the 30th of Nissan in a leap year. So it is Rosh Chodesh today. It is the first of 2 days of Rosh Chodesh ER, so happy Rosh Chodesh. And today we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome. What is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is something that most people at some point in their life experience, maybe multiple times in life they experience it. And it's the experience of basically feeling like a fraud. So this is something that even very successful people often experience. Sometimes people who are very qualified in their field experience. Sometimes actually there's been studies that have been done that show that sometimes the people who are the most qualified in their fields actually tend to experience this imposter syndrome even stronger than those who know very little. And that's an interesting point, which actually will come up in the Tanya today when we get into that. I'll start off by sharing a story of a time when I experienced imposter syndrome. This was quite a number of years ago when I still taught yoga classes on a regular basis, but I was actually pretty new in my career as a yoga teacher. And I had really only taught people in Crown Heights, like Jewish people in Crown Heights and from Lubavitch community, people that I kind of knew or people who knew people I knew, things like that, like friends and family, Hamish style, you know what I mean? And I remember the first time that I got hired to teach yoga at a Chabad house in, I think it was Park Slope, if I recall, which those of you that know what Park Slope is a very yuppie kind of place, which is almost like the heart of yoga in a lot of ways in Brooklyn, New York, like that pretty much every other person there practices yoga on a fairly regular basis. And I got really nervous and I started to experience this feeling of imposter syndrome because again, like I mentioned, up until that point, I really was only teaching people who had, for the most part, never really done yoga before, people who were very forgiving and didn't know all that much. So there wasn't a lot that I had to be worried about. But now here I was, and I felt like I really would have to prove myself. And did I really know what I was talking about? Like I would most likely be teaching people who had done yoga before, and not only who had done yoga before, might have practiced yoga for many years, might be very experienced in things. Would I be exposed as a fraud? So long story short, the class turned out fantastic and it was great. And it was a very big confidence boost to me. And I definitely felt better about myself in terms of being a yoga teacher. And it was very affirming to see that I was able to really teach a real class. And so again, this is something that many people experience. Most people experience it at some point or another. Why are we talking about it today for today's Tanya? Because in today's Tanya, we're going to discuss exactly this idea of imposter syndrome in terms of our relationship with our service of God. So we've been talking a lot about the idea of loving God and the different types of love of God that we have, and some types of love of God that are more things we need to work on. And the last couple of episodes, we've been talking about the innate love of God that we have, the different types of love that we have, which are innate within us. And we just need to work at revealing them and uncovering them. And so yesterday we really talked about and focused on the innate love of God, which is like the love of a son towards a father. That's what it's likened to. And it's likened to the love that Moshe Rabbeinu had towards God, which was like the experience of where Moshe saw himself as a son and God as his father. And we talked about how really God is all of our fathers. And so really we all should experience this love of God towards our Father and having this awareness, and how we really all need to cultivate this awareness of God as our Father, as our collective Father, to really bring out this love. And we talked about how while this might seem like a really daunting task, it's actually not that daunting at all, because it's something that we innately all have within us. And it's something that we have the power to do because of the spark of Moses that is brought into every single generation, that's found inside each and every one of us. And we also talked about how the way to reveal this love is through habituating ourselves in our language, in our thoughts, and in our speech, and in our prayer to relating to God as a father to a son, and that this habituation will become nature. And so this is how we can reveal this love. So today the Alter Rebbe is going to bring up a challenge to this, a potential challenge that people might have to this whole thing. Let's say a person is going about this exercise and they're saying, okay, I'm going to follow the Tanya. I'm going to do what the Tanya says. I'm going to talk about God. I'm going to think about God. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to pray and learn and all these things. And I'm okay. Okay. I'm doing all of it. I'm doing all this practice. How do I know that I'm not a fraud? Like maybe people on the outside see me and they're like, wow, like Sarid, Sarid's such a holy person. She is learning Tanya all day long. She has a Tanya podcast. She prays every single day. She davens 3 times a day, like all this stuff. Like, oh wow, she's so holy. I definitely have had this experience where I've said to myself, like, wow, I don't feel like the holiest person. I don't, how can I truly say that I love God on this level of a son loving their father? Like, kind of feels like I'm being a fake here. Like this doesn't feel like I'm being so authentic. So what the Alter Rebbe is going to reassure us with is he's going to give us some reassurance, and he's going to tell us that don't worry, calm down. You may feel like a fraud, but you're not. So just like I explained, that interestingly, research has shown that the more people tend to have imposter syndrome, the more of a sign it tends to be that they are actually not an imposter and they're actually a lot more skilled at these things than they thought. And versus those people who go around and who actually have real confidence and don't doubt themselves, they are the ones that might have a little bit more things that they need to work on. Similarly, in our service of God, if we are experiencing feelings of imposter syndrome, if we're feeling like doubting ourselves, is our love real? Is our love not real? This might actually, it's not a bad thing. And it's the reassurance that the Alter Rebbe is giving us is that actually we're not fraudulent. It's not fake. And the proof that it's not fake is because this love is something that we innately all have. This is something that was given to us as an inheritance. It's not something that we even need to work on in order to attain. We just have it. And the only thing that's asked of us that we need to do in this regard is to reveal it out of hiding. And why do we need to reveal it out of hiding? Because this is what God wants. Because this makes God very, very, very happy. So what the Alter Rebbe likens this to is like if a king has a son who the son was imprisoned for some reason or another, and then the son comes out of captivity. Just imagine how excited the king would feel when their son comes out of a captivity. And this similarly is the experience of joy that God has when we reveal our innate love of him, because this is like us coming out of captivity. It's also an experience of joy that God experiences, of feeling like that he has a dwelling place here in this realm with us when we reveal this love. So really, we should work at revealing this love. So the lessons that we'll be learning today is, number 1, if you feel like your love for God is fake, don't worry about it. It's not fake. And 2, even though it's not fake and we don't have to work on it, and it's something we just all have, we do need to try to reveal it. Why? Because this makes God happy. Because it makes God excited to see that his children are coming out of captivity, meaning the godly part of ourselves are becoming revealed, and it makes God happy to feel like he has a dwelling place here in this realm with us. So that's a brief encapsulation of what we're going to be learning today. And for context, again, we're still in the middle of chapter 44 of Likkutei Amarim, and so let's get into the text and see how the Alter Rebbe explains all of this. So the Alter Rebbe starts off and he says that what if somebody feels that that this is just an illusionary thing, like that this love that they're cultivating is just illusionary, they shouldn't worry, because in truth, it is actually true truth of its own accord, and an aspect of the love that is concealed, and just that there is a benefit to bringing it out into revelation in order to make it become practical through Torah and mitzvahs. So when we learn Torah and when we perform mitzvahs through this love, this is the purpose of why we need to bring it out into revelation. So it will motivate us to do all of these things. And this is in order to bring nachas to God, to bring nachas ruach, like pleasure to God, just like a son who serves his father. And about this, it's taught, Machshava tova hakadosh baruch hu metzarfa lemaaseh. So this is a quote from the Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin, page 40a, which means that a good deed, a good thought, God attaches to action and makes it into wings that will fly, as is explained above. So we talked about this before in chapter 16. You can go back and look that up if you'd like. And so what is this pleasure that we've been discussing? What is this nachas that God gets when we arouse our love and reveal our love and into action and causes us to keep Torah and mitzvah? This is likened to the pleasure of a king who derives pleasure from his son who comes to him when he comes out of jail, as we explained above. Or alternatively, another type of joy that God is getting is that in the fact that he's getting a dira b'tachtonim, this dream that God has of having a dwelling place here in the lower realms is being fulfilled by us when we reveal this love. And so even this aspect of nafshi vitich that we talked about above. So what is nafshi vitich? Nafshi vitich is that my soul yearns for you. So this is the level of God's love where we talked about seeing God as our life force and understanding that just like we love our lives, we love God, and because we should see God as our life force, as the life of all life. So this aspect of this love is very near to bring it out from concealment into revelation through habituation. So again, it comes back to habit. So habit is really very important here. And so this is, so what is the habit? It is to habituate your mouth and your mind to be equal, so that like you're really in heart and mind in the same place. So like, again, we talked about this idea of meditation and thinking and talking about God and all of that, and how that will bring your heart to the right place. And then the Alter Rebbe concludes here and he says, and even if, let's say, a person really practices this and they really habituate themselves in this way, but they still don't feel that this love is revealed in their heart, nevertheless, they can still keep Torah and mitzvahs for their own sake, through illustrating in their minds, like creating an image in their mind, this love, like a person can kind of like imagine what this love would look like in their mind and in their thought. And this thought, again, machshava tova hakadosh baruch hu metzarfa lemaaseh. So good thought, God attaches to action. So it's like if you can't get there emotionally, the Alter Rebbe is basically saying that you should at least even still try to get there intellectually and try to imagine and envision in your mind what it would look like. It's really, it relates really to the idea of visualization. And like, a lot of people do like vision boarding nowadays, where people put up images and they imagine and they try to visualize what they want. And through this visualization, the idea is that if you visualize it enough, it will become real. So it's here too. The Alter Rebbe is teaching us that if we visualize what this love would look like, this can actually make it real, and God will attach this thought to action. So that is it for today, and we will continue along these lines tomorrow, and I will speak to you then. Thanks for listening to the It Is Taught podcast, hosted by Sarit Switzer. This podcast is dedicated in loving memory of my maternal grandfather, Avraham Yitzchak ben Binyamin HaKohen of blessed memory. Music by Shoshana. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support the show, please share it with others and subscribe on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to leave us a 5-star review. To find out more about the It Is Taught project, including more information on my soon-to-be published book, please visit our website, itistaught.com. To catch the latest from me, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Looking forward to speaking with you tomorrow, and until then, have a great day.